We made it down here to Texas. We had to hightail it out of Florida from fishing the first Bass Open. Got here just in time to kick off practice for the first FLW event of 2020 on Sam Rayburn Reservoir. 2019 was a great year coming off of it, and it started right here at Sam Rayburn. But on the flip side, I didn't start so great. I ended up in the hundreds somewhere. Sam Rayburn's a reservoir that's had my number a little bit. I don't quite understand it, but I really wanted to. And so this year was a huge priority for me to start the season off on a great foot, so I didn't have to climb my way back out of the hole. Of course, in regular typical FLW fashion, we got here and we hit the first cold front of the season. So basically winter hit Texas in an area that doesn't like winter so much. I'm with some Florida strain bass. Last year the water was super duper high, 10, 12 feet high or something like that, and it looked like a lot of the hydrilla died off. This year is one of the first things I noticed in practice. I also pay attention. There's a big rattle trap tournament going on, so I kind of had an idea what was going on. I spent a lot of my first day just looking around, trying to figure out what was going on out there, you know, where the hydrilla was, and spent most of my time staring at my Lowrance graphs, my Navionics mapping, just kind of looking around, trying to find something offshore. That was a big deal to me to have that this year going into the event. Shallow, I didn't do too much right away. I kind of kept it away. I saw the cold front coming. I saw all the rains, the dirty water, rising water, colder dropping temps. I just kind of thought, you know, that shallow bite was going to die a little bit. So I stayed out of the bushes, even though the water was starting to get to that level. I knew there were some fish to be caught, but I just didn't know if that was going to be a great way to get a check. So most practice, like I said, I stayed offshore, used my graphs, and I found some fish, but just never got the size. I could catch them basically at will. I knew I could get a limit staying out deep, but it just really never ran into that size. I think my biggest was a 3.5 pounder in practice, 3 3/4. I did catch a 5 pounder up shallow, kind of kept tabs on that and really watched that grass. The last day of practice, kind of things started to come together. I knew I had enough offshore stuff, but I needed to find a bigger bite, and I went up shallow, started winging around a trap, and started catching a little bit of quality with literally the last few hours of practice. That's how important, you know, utilizing your full time in practice can be. Day one of the tournament, we had a cold front. It was raining, a lot of rain on our day off, and I chose to fish out deep. I started shallow, and I did pick up a 2 pounder, but I basically just went out deep the whole time, and I caught most of my fish on a Carolina rig, but definitely leaned on a drop shot, and leave that to a dude from Minnesota to come to Sam Rayburn, Texas, I know, and start throwing around a drop shot. But just threw a little Biospawn plasma tail, a pink one, around brush, any brush that I marked offshore, and I caught fish, but I only, I ended the day with like a 9 to 10 pound limit. Nothing great, never found that Rayburn kicker, and was sitting just out of check range, something like that, and knew I needed to have a big day two. So day two, I hunkered down in the grass big time. I basically kept a small area all practice. Rayburn's huge, so I did not want to get all the way out and really spread myself thin. Instead, I just kind of stayed tight, stayed within a 5-mile area of the lake that I picked out that I thought would be the most productive, and I knew that area well. So I knew I could run to some grass, and that's what I did. Right away in the morning, I started on an area, caught a 2.5, 2 3/4, and a couple hours later caught a 5 pounder. I knew I was off to the day that I needed in that area, but again, Rayburn's just not fishing good right now. It's real grimy, and I probably sat in there for hours throwing a trap and just really never came up with nothing. Ended up going deep, nothing. It was a ghost town. Nothing that I could do out there I could do right. Went back shallow, and in the last half hour actually, I got it together. Caught a 3 pounder, a nice 2.5, and then a 14-incher to fill my limit. I knew I had a decent bag, and I was able to run back. Finished 42nd, I believe, on it, which is awesome. I'll take it. Of course, I always want to make that top 30, but to take 42nd, a $10,000 payday here on Rayburn to get things started, and them great points, I'll definitely take it. Again, I did most of my damage. I did when I was offshore. I was fishing that plasma tail, but again, I didn't really have the big bites to woo anybody here. But my bigger bites on day two came with one bait. I'm about worn out today because I was fishing 2 to 4 foot of water, whatever hydrilla I could find that was left in the lake, and I did it with this live target trap right here, just a 1/2 ounce gold trap. You can see I beat the brakes off of this thing all day. No eyes left in it, it's all beat up. One thing I'll tell you that I did on this bait is I put the owner STX hooks on here. hugely important because a lot of these fish, they weren't even eating it. They're just swatting at the bait. You know, you'd hook them just outside the mouth, stuff like this, but I'd land them on these. I was using a Shimano Poison Adrena rod. This is a 7.3 medium heavy action rod. Was perfect for ripping the bait out of there. Had enough backbone to really rip the bait clean in that shallow, you know, sometimes it's coontail, other times it's hydrilla, but it had the strength to rip the bait out, but at the same time it's a limber enough rod to keep them pegged and get them in the boat. And that was the key. In the end, I just didn't lose any fish, and I was using a Corrado, just a Shimano Corrado K. It's probably my favorite reel made, with straight 17 Seeker and Vizex fluorocarbon, and that was it. That was my setup. That's how I got it done. Rayburn and trap fishing are kind of known to go hand in hand, and that's exactly what I did on a pre-spawn pattern. So to wrap up here and to get a 42nd place finish, take home a payday is an awesome way to start the season. Our next stop off is the Harris Chain in Florida, one of my favorite lakes. I love it to fish in Florida. But before we can head that way, there is a brand new Shield store that's getting really close to opening in the Dallas area, and we're gonna be headed out that way doing some seminars and hanging out with the new staff, getting things off, and then we'll be putting the Lance, the Phoenix in tow and heading back to Florida. See you guys on the water. Tight line.